the hidden secrets of the world. Everything that we cannot access, everything that we cannot understand, produces immeasurable fear, because our mind is able to take us to the darkest moor in search of answered events that simply cannot be explained. That's why today I invite you to see 5 unexplained cases, videos that capture moments that no matter how much you analyze, you can never find an explanation that does not take you to the dark alley in your mind. Enter with me in the purest darkness and let your mind get lost in the deepest fear. Turn off the lights, hold your seat and follow my voice, because you're about to enter into the evil zone. Case 5. The Visitor. Being a watchman can be seen as something simple to do, and it makes sense. Staying in a place vigilant throughout the night does not sound like something from another world. However, when the place assigned for safekeeping turns out to be a hospital full of wandering souls, or a school with spirits that roams the halls, the simplicity disappears almost as fast as the intense terror feeling that comes to you, knowing that you are trapped with an entity that does not belong to your world. A vivid example of this is the following video, in which the guard of a school, in the middle of what appeared to be a routine round, begins to hear very strange noises. Knowing this, with a camera to document everything, explores the place to see something that freezes his blood.
What the fuck?
From nothing, a thin black figure moved at high speed to a hole in front of him. The man runs towards the dark entity, only to end up realizing that it's no longer there. Remember that what separates our world from the supernatural is a thin line, so thin that sometimes it breaks and allows to enter of this thing to our world. Case 4. By your side. Those who travel into the unknown are aware of the risk they face confronting paranormal forces that goes beyond their understanding. However, there are cases of people who end up being victims of this kind of paranormal events without being in search of them, as if they somehow attracted to themselves. A perfect example is this girl, who lived an overwhelming experience while testing some filters in her Snapchat account. Suddenly, the automatic social network system recognizes a face behind her, so she proceeded to place a filter very characteristic of this app. This can be a simple error in facial recognition, or that is what you may think, because recognizing a face behind the girl, the filter executed its iconic animation. It is only activated if the app recognizes that the captured faces is opening the mouth.
Je suis à côté de mon malfaiteur, c'est mon pote. Tu peux tirer la langue s'il te plaît? Par contre si tu fais ça...
After this, and even trying to think it was an error, the girl decided to try the app inside her room again. But surprisingly, the app recognized a face in the same place, and now it was more precise, making the camera move and return to where the supposed face was. The application recognized it almost immediately, as if whatever was in that place was already a face familiar to the app. Case 3. Possession. Living a traumatic experience is not limited to being in a wrong place and time, because sometimes an emotional fall, the opening of spiritual doors, and even the movement between walls of a demonic entity can cause you something much worse. And the video you're watching right now is a proof of it. From nowhere, a man who was inside a store was victim of a possession. really terrible things comes as the video continues, and it's that aggressive way in which the body seems to convulse, the shaking of a man, and above all, how quickly it happens, make us watch that this person is not dealing with an ordinary possession. Many are the canons to fulfill a possession. The spirit that takes us to the body must have great power. The user must have a great spirituality and control of the spiritual art, and there must be a shaman involved. It is easy to conclude that none of these features are fulfilled, which make us believe that the entity that possesses this person has a power bigger than any spirit could have, because the only ones capable of possessing someone in such way are demons. Case 2. At home. Imagine for a moment that you are alone in your house, a home that only you have access, and suddenly you begin to hear sounds of the first floor on your own home. Sounds that seems to be a person moving freely right there, on the place you thought you were alone. A deep feeling of panic will take over your body because you do not know who can be there. But if you know who enters, did it without your permission, you now assume their intentions. This is what happened to the person in the video you're watching right now. He decided to point his phone to the stairs, trying to see if anyone was there.
Are you talking? What the hell is that noise?
Son of a...
Is in this moment when everything begins to get out of control, because what was previously heard in the lower part of the house, now it is heard on the floor where he is, then again in the lower part, and almost immediately inside from his own room. How is this possible? A single person is not able to do something like that. That was what this man thought. So for a moment he believed it was his imagination. With phone in hand, he made the decision to enter his room. Being this the last place he heard a sound coming out, just to meet face to face with a dark entity, a being that seems to have a human form. This being seems to be crooked and looking at his face. In the previous case, we talked about the power needed for a spirit to take control of a body. Placing things in a point of comparison, the power that an entity must have to become corporeal is infinitely superior, which makes us wonder, what will have happened to the subject of the video? What really was that being, and why it seems to be playing the cat and the mouse to catch him right at home?
What the hell is that noise?
Son of a bitch!
Case 1. On the train tracks. Few are the videos that are comparable to the one we will watch in the first place, since everything recorded here exceeded everything you've seen. Live with me the next scenario. You return home at night after a long working day. You decide to take the subway to get home soon, and being at the station, you begin to hear some cries of agony. Driven by the desire to help, you go to the place without stopping to think about the risk, and when you get there, you find this.
Dude, is oh my god. Dude, come on. Yeah, dude, oh my. Dude, bail. Oh my god.
A woman lying on the ground at the station, covered in blood and trying to hang herself. The image itself is terrifying. However, nothing compares of what happened a few seconds later. because while the boys in the video try to help her, she starts screaming more and more intensely, while she's been victim of violent spasms that make her hit the ground in more than one occasion, crawling erratically as if someone or something moved her violently while she's making an effort to stand up, as if a terrible internal struggle took place within her, only to end in a point of extreme terror when she finally managed to get on 4 feet.
I don't have to get out of here.
Like a demonized beast, and begins to run right towards the young people who try to help her. Today, the origin of the horrifying video is unknown, as well as the whereabouts of everyone involved. However, given the obvious power of the entity that possessed the poor woman, I will not hold much hope on how to conclude everything. Ghosts, spirits or demons are real, and trying to look aside is useless. They're still existing whether you believe in them or not. That's why, no matter how skeptical you are, at some point, sooner rather than later, something will end up finding you and looking you right in the eye, and it will send you directly to the evil zone. Does this video frighten you? Share and subscribe.